Can you clarify the term kaleidoscope thinking?
Kaleidoscope thinking is, from what I understand, an idea that was born through a Harvard professor years ago. And the idea is that when you face a problem and you hit a wall on something, most people tend to kind of go back to their repository of knowledge and try to find a way through that wall. It could be a process issue or what have you. And what it means, what it says is if you change the kaleidoscope, as you'll note, the colors and the light will vary depending on how you change the lens. So it's important to try to draw upon maybe a lesson learned in a whole different industry. In our case, it could be maybe something in the biotech world happened or in the software world happened that we can apply to a problem or a challenge that we're facing here. And it may be kind of related to what Stephen Covey says is step back and sharpen the saw as well, and take a clean, fresh sheet approach to a problem or an opportunity.
Okay. Is that a change? I wanted to ask you to talk about the changes you've observed in the public relations practice over the decades. Is that one of them?
Well, the most profound change, I think, in the world of communications is that the old model of command and control has been turned upside down. I mean, the pyramid has been inverted. The power curve now is with people, consumers, your employees. And certainly when you factor in the historic levels of distrust that people have now in corporations, which is unfortunate, I think, because it's only been the bad actions of a few that have kind of colored a lot of really good companies. You have to really change the way you think through your language, your actions, how transparent and candid and authentic you are, and really try to find a way to engender loyalty and pride among your people. Because if the world knows that you're treating people with respect and you're treating them fairly and you have a strong culture or ethos, they will give you the benefit of the doubt in a crisis, and every company faces them. They will also be more likely to purchase your product. They will also be more likely to trust you, to invest in you, to want to work there and buy your product or service. So to me, culture has both tangible and intangible benefits. The tangible benefits are that you're able to incent people to do the absolute best they can do in whatever job they have, whether it's a customer service agent, a pilot, or a courier in our case. So you're trying to get optimal performance because they believe in what you're doing, they are proud and loyal. And then the ultimate payoff, really, and this is, I think, the holy grail with respect to culture, is finding the sweet spot of discretionary effort. And that comes from the heart. That can't be legislated. And finding a way to get to people's hearts is a very interesting issue. And that's where people, things like reputation, the conduct of the executives, how you're treating people. When we have cases of couriers going into burning homes to rescue babies, all these heroic efforts, that's not something that's in their manager guide or in their job scope. It's because they want to live up to that ideal they have of what a FedEx person should do. And we have this interesting saying here. It's actually a rallying cry. It's called the Purple Promise. And everyone in the company, whether you're in Hong Kong or Boston or any operating environment, can recite to you the Purple Promise is that I will make every FedEx experience outstanding, whether I'm dealing with a peer-to-peer or with a customer. And that is the rallying cry. We try to really celebrate it, reward it, incent it. So when you come into this company and you're a new employee and you hear about these heroic stories, you hear about discretionary effort, you hear about the value system, you hear about the Purple Promise, you want to emulate that, because if you don't, then you're likely not to fit in. And humans really are motivated by peer pressure and legends. And there's, I think, storytelling also now is really important as it relates to both communications internally and externally. Humans love stories because you can bring a lot of emotion and meaning to something in stories. And we're now starting this amazing campaign here called I Am FedEx. And it's real people in real places telling their story about so many different aspects of their job, their volunteer time in a community, what they think about the company, some innovation, and it's authentic, it's stories, it's something we can put over the internet. It's cool stuff like that that you can do now that you couldn't do before. And by the way, if you think of yourself as a modern media company rather than just as a PR machine, you start to look at the world completely differently. You start to look at managing and creating content differently, the distribution of content and what that content does. And in our case, you know, we look for productivity, knowledge workers, collaborative opportunities, putting campaigns over the internet. So being a modern media company, I think transcends the traditional role of PR and corporate communications into a whole different space.
But how does social media and the internet, how have they impacted your work on a very sort of pragmatic level?
Well, social media has had a profound impact on our business and how we communicate, and it's still a work in progress. I mean, I think we're all learning. It's sort of like the wild, wild west. I mean, there's tremendous benefits to it, but there's also a lot of vagaries and a lot of pitfalls. Clearly, the most important part of social media is the importance of relationships and understanding and being empathetic towards what people expect of you as a corporation, and for you to know them at a deeper level and communicate and serve them in ways that you wouldn't know and have done before. And that means that you've got to change your whole, you know, your customer service approach, your service levels, the kind of choices and features that you're giving them. And the more customized you make your value proposition or your product to a consumer, the more likely you are to engender that loyalty and trust and develop advocacy. So understanding the emotive part of dealing with consumers in the social media space, as well as the transactional part. I think before social media, companies tended to put more emphasis on the transactional part, the price, the quality of the product, why my soap is better or different than yours. But now, not only do you have to get your transactional parts right, you also have to have equally compelling emotional, what I would call emotional intelligence capabilities of the corporation in dealing on a one-to-one level rather than one to masses.